In the last video, we covered how to create epics and stories in Jira and how to organize the work at different levels. In this session, we will build on that knowledge by understanding how these elements are connected. Specifically, we will study the link between the epics and user stories and explore the relationship between different stories within a project. When managing a project in Jira, especially in Agile or Scrum model, issue linking is critical because it answers the question like what depends on what is blocking progress, and which tasks are related but independent. Without links, your backlog just becomes a list, but with links, it becomes a connected workflow system. We will use our food delivery app as an example, which has 5 epics, including user authentication, restaurant browsing, order management, payment system, and delivery tracking. Before we start, it is important to note that we never link epics directly for execution. Epics are the containers for the stories. The stories themselves are the actionable work items. So when we talk about linking in Jira, we are always linking the user stories under these epics to define the relationship and the dependencies and the execution order. Jira has several built-in issue link types. Let's go through all of them and see what each means. Number 1 is block or is blocked by. So it defines a dependency that a story cannot proceed until the blocking story is completed. For example, a story under order management is blocked by a story under user authentication. Relates to indicates that two stories are connected but do not block each other. For example, a story under delivery tracking relates to a story under order management, so it provides a context and visibility without enforcing any order. Next is duplicate or is duplicated by. So it marks redundant stories. For example, two stories may be under the payment system describes the same task. Then clone and is cloned by. It creates an identical copy of the story, usually for parallel work or testing variations. For example, a story under restaurant browsing is cloned for a different region. Changes to one do not affect the other automatically, but Jira keeps the link visible. Then we have epic link or parent-child relationship that basically links stories to their parent epic or subtasks to their parent story. Then we have caused and is caused by. This shows one story triggers the another, often for workflow automation, you can say. For example, completing a story under payment system may cause another story under delivery tracking to start. We are going to see how blocking relationships between stories work in Jira Free Cloud using our food delivery app. We will create a sprint, add all the epics and stories, and see how dependencies affect what we can start and plan. So let's link stories with the blockers. So blockers define dependencies, meaning one story cannot start until another is completed. For example, a story under order management is blocked by a story under user authentication. You can't place an order without a logged in user. Now let's see what happens if it is missing. So the team may start developing order placement before the logging is ready, maybe causing wasted effort and untestable functionality. We can have another example like a story under payment system is blocked by a story under order management. The idea is that you cannot process a payment without an order. So without this link, the team might implement payment flows that cannot be used or tested. Similarly, a story under delivery tracking is blocked by a story under order management. So tracking cannot start until an order exists. So without linking, deliveries may be scheduled before the orders are placed, and this causes operational errors. It ensures correct workflow order, and it prevents the wasted effort on work that cannot proceed, and it helps you to prioritize the critical path stories in planning. First, open your Jira project, that is food delivery app. Go to the backlog view and you will see 5 epics like user authentication and so on. Click create sprint at the top of the backlog. This adds a new sprint placeholder where we can drag the user stories. Next, drag all the stories from the relevant epics into the sprint. Now the sprint has all the stories that we want to plan. Once all the blockers are set, click start sprint. So you open a user story, click on linked work item, add a link type. In this case, it is blocked by. Then from a drop-down menu, choose user authentication story. The links are clickable. You can jump to the related story. Now in Free Cloud, if you try to start working on a story that is blocked, Jira doesn't prevent you, but you can see the block status by opening the story. Now let's understand how Jira Free Cloud actually handles a blocked by relationship between the stories. This is important because many users expect Jira to actively warn or stop them, but in free version that is not how it works. Unlike paid versions of Jira, you will not see a yellow warning banner at the top, and you will not see a clear blocked label, and you will not get a strong visual alert. So Jira doesn't loudly tell you that the story is blocked. Instead, it quietly stores and shows this information only inside the issue links section. So the key idea is that in Jira Free Cloud, blockers are informational, not enforceable. Now let's understand why this is important. So if the team doesn't check dependencies manually, they may start working on a blocked story, and that work cannot be completed or tested. So this leads to wasted effort and delays. For example, if order management starts before user authentication is ready, the feature cannot function properly. Now let's see how enforcing dependencies in Jira Free Cloud works. In Jira Free Cloud, there is no built-in feature to enforce dependencies between stories. That means Jira will not stop you from starting a block story, and it will not show strong visual warnings. So the question is, how do teams manage dependencies effectively? In this section, we will look at the 3 practical techniques that are using issue links for tracking, using block status for visibility, and using sprint planning discipline for prevention. Let's start with issue links, which is the foundation of dependency management in Jira Free Cloud. Open any story, for example a story under order management, and scroll down to the issue links section. Search and select a story under user authentication and then click the link. Now this creates a dependency, meaning this story cannot logically proceed until the linked story is completed. So Jira automatically creates a reverse relationship as well. So if a story is blocked by another, the other story will show that it blocks this one. So this helps the team to track the dependencies clearly. But remember, this is only informational. It simply records it. So the team members must open the story and check the section before starting the work. Next option is to have a block status for visibility. Next, let's make dependencies visible using a block status. Go to space settings, click on board, then go to columns and statuses. Click on manage workflows, edit the workflow, add a new status called blocked. Place it between to do and in progress status. So drag it and position it between the to do and in progress status. So ensure it is connected from the to do or in progress. Open the story that is blocked and change its status to blocked. Now whenever a story has a dependency that is not yet resolved, we move it to the block status. This makes it clearly visible on the board. So this solves a major limitation, that is lack of visibility. Now the entire team can immediately see which stories are blocked and which ones are ready to start. Without this, the block stories look normal and developer may start with them accidentally. Finally, the most important technique is to have a sprint planning discipline. Go to the backlog. Before dragging stories into the sprint, open each story and check the issue links and ensure that blocker stories are included first. For example, a story under order management is blocked by a story under user authentication. So during sprint planning, we must ensure that the user authentication story is included in the sprint first, or it already is completed in the previous sprint. Let's see how all these 3 techniques work together. First, we create dependencies using issue links. Then if a story is blocked, we move it to blocked status for visibility. And finally, during sprint planning, we ensure blockers are resolved or included before dependent work. If these practices are not followed, the team member may work on stories in the wrong order, and developers may unknowingly start blocked work, and delivery timelines may be affected. Back to the link types and relationships in Jira. Now let's look at the relates to link type. This relationship is used when 2 stories are connected in context, but they do not depend on each other to start or finish. Now let's understand this with our food delivery app. For example, under the restaurant browsing epic, we may have 2 stories, one for viewing restaurant list and another for applying filters. These 2 stories are clearly related as they contribute to the same feature experience, but one doesn't block the other. So here we use the relates to link. It matters because when a team member opens one story, they can immediately see related work happening alongside it. So this improves the awareness and helps the developers and testers and maybe designers to understand the bigger feature context. Now let's talk about duplicates. This is one of the most practical link types used in real projects. Sometimes the same requirement gets created more than once, especially in large teams. For example, under a payment system epic, two different team members might create stories describing the same payment integration. So instead of working on both, we mark one story as a duplicate of the other. So it prevents the redundant work. Without marking duplicates, two developers might unknowingly work on the same functionality, and this results in wasting time and effort. Duplicates helps to keep the backlog clean, efficient and focused, ensuring that effort is not wasted. Next we have clones. A clone is essentially a copy of a story created intentionally. For example, under restaurant browsing, we may have a story for displaying restaurant list. Now suppose we want to test this feature for a different region or market. Instead of writing the story, we create a clone because it allows the team to work on similar requirements in parallel without interfering with the original story. Jira keeps a link between the original and cloned story, so there is traceability. So they support parallel development and testing while maintaining a clear connection between the related work. Now let's move on to the most fundamental relationships, that is the epic link or a parent-child relationship. So every story in Jira must belong to an epic. So stories under user authentication belong to the user authentication epic, and stories under order management belong to the order management epic. So because Jira uses this relationship, we can organize the backlog and track the progress at the epic level and show how much work is completed versus how much is remaining. So if stories are not linked to an epic, they become orphaned. You can say the reporting becomes inaccurate and progress tracking is broken. Planning becomes very difficult. So linking the epic and stories ensures structure, hierarchy and visibility across the entire project. Then cause relationship is used when one story directly triggers another piece of work. For example, completing a story under payment system may trigger a story under delivery tracking, such as enabling real-time updates after payment confirmation, because it makes the workflow explicit across the features, teams or even sprints. So without this, the team may not realize that completing one task should automatically lead to another. So this may cause delays or missteps. Now let's bring everything together and understand what we achieve by using all these link types. So first, blockers ensure the work happens in the correct order, and this prevents the wasted effort. Second, the relates to provide context and improves the visibility across the features. Third, clones allows parallel development while maintaining the traceability. Fourth, duplicate eliminate the redundant work and keeps the backlog clean. Fifth, the epic links ensure proper hierarchy and accurate progress tracking. And finally, causes relationship helps to define the cross feature, or you can say cross sprint triggers. Now imagine if these links are not used, then teams may work on stories out of order, developers may get blocked unexpectedly, and duplicate work may occur. So that's it. Thank you for watching. In the next session, we will cover how to write strong acceptance criteria, and we will define what is Moscow.